Hi and welcome to Beyond the Racing Line, the Formula One podcast by fans, for fans. Singapore put on a show under lights. It's a favourite of ours, and I tell you what, it did not disappoint this year. To discuss all the wonders of Singapore and this lovely vein of races that we're in at the moment is Tristan Pocock. Hello, mate. How are you?
Good. How are you? Happy holidays.
Are you feeling refreshed?
Very much.
A decent race time into holidays. I don't think I've felt this refreshed on a Tuesday for a long time.
We still finished at midnight, though. Did you notice that?
Oh, yeah.
Which is fine. It's just,
Yeah, which meant going to bed at 1, which I can handle.
Yeah.
And I know that the race usually would finish at 1 for us.
Yeah,
but
I was
then it's the hype afterwards.
It is. I was sort of thinking to myself, well, it's a bit of a shorter race. Am I going to bed like 10? I'm okay with that. Like 8:30. But then I always forget the pre-show.
Yeah.
Check KO. 8:30 race. Awesome. That's an hour and a half at pre-show. But I did tune in to a little bit of pre-show this week. I say a little bit of it. I'm going to say 90% of pre-show.
Yeah.
I now have a new thing that I absolutely despise.
The pre-show.
Which is pre-show.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
I don't mind some of the features. I don't mind some of the features.
Maybe it was this week's feature.
But mind you, I didn't see this one because my problem is that I've never been in a family...
Yep.
And had Formula One in front of me during the day or at decent times. And so my wife is like, no, we're watching this. Come on, we're going to watch this for a bit. And you're like, oh, but I'd rather watch the pre-show. But then I was like, yeah, you know what? I started watching a bit of the pre-show. And I was like, we can watch something else for a while.
Yeah, it was ordinary.
But yeah, there's other things that take away from it. So we're going into a 3 p.m. start for Suzuka this week.
Now, see, it's funny you say that.
We're going to have to hide the kids away.
Well...
to not interrupt viewing.
Yeah, I don't know... This is probably the weekend I don't know how to watch or what time to watch. It's 3 o'clock is not a good time to watch.
I've got a suggestion.
Yeah.
You come and watch it in the shed.
I think it's a great idea.
I might put the big TV in the shed and we might be able to watch in the shed.
It's a great idea.
And maybe we'll record straight after it or something like that.
Yeah, because I'm thinking if I'm watching it at home, I'll probably just wait till everyone goes to bed.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, no, I like that idea.
It's an interesting one, yeah. So we can nut that out. We might be able to do some recording during the race, or we'll see how we go. But it's a lovely thing. We used to, for everyone overseas, Australia used to get the Formula One on at 10 o'clock, and then they decided to push all the European races back that hour, and it just absolutely screwed me because I can get to 12 quite comfortably.
Yep, that's fine.
If the race extends out because of the red flag, I'm in a bit of trouble.
It's about 40 minutes.
Which is why I always like to wake up. And plus, I really love that routine on a Monday morning, waking up super early, super excited for a Formula One race, and it's a great way to start the week. But come Tuesday night, I am a little bit tired. But the 10 o'clock brought back lovely memories for me.
Well, it's good, wasn't it? It's fun. I like to use the Monday for a bit of news and all the sort of happenings afterwards. I find myself reading a lot on a Monday morning.
Yep, absolutely.
I'd miss that if I watched it like you watch it.
We got all the goodies.
All the goodies.
F1.5, fantasy.
Fantasy's back.
Well, you look a bit more excited this week.
I'm a little bit more excited this week as well.
And a bit of news to discuss. But before we get into any of that, we have an opening question from Paige.
Oh.
The big question is Paige okay?
Is she?
After giving Zandvoort a 5.5 rating this year, the big question is Paige okay?
She had a rough...
I'm assured she's okay.
We really got stuck into it last week, which is fine.
Yep.
Yeah,
I was led into a little secret about Paige.
Okay, yep.
Apparently she fell asleep through that race, so couldn't actually give a proper score.
Oh, that's...
Which you can understand because that race was a little bit, and I know Paige is a shift worker, so falling asleep is a risk of the job.
Yeah.
And so if she had had a late stint or late night or a run of late nights, I can understand her falling asleep first part of that race. The problem was that race came alive midway through towards the end. But anyway, this is from Paige.
Hey guys, great work on the podcast. My opening question is, if you could get a gift for a driver, who are you choosing and what are you gifting them? My driver is Fernando Alonso, and I would gift him a colouring book and some glasses, so hopefully he will learn to stay in the lines.
Oh, I like it.
Thanks, guys.
I like it a lot. I like it a lot. That is very good, Paige. If there's ever a time that we're going to get excited it's always good to get excited about the fact that Fernando Alonso's being bagged out for not being able to stay on the racetrack.
Jeez.
Thoughts?
It's not a bad question. Do you watch the Christmas sort of Kris Kringle special at the end of the F1 season? You ever seen that?
I have seen it.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
I don't tend to watch it.
No. Like I don't go. I'm waiting to find it, but if I see it, it's there.
Yeah, I mean Hamilton was the first to spring to mind. That first corner going off the track there.
Yes.
But yes, Fernando Alonso's a bit the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to catch myself when I watched that, and yes, I did go quite vocal and message it, and I was just like, what the hell was that? And I thought, remember Sochi and Alonso did that, and I was all for that. So.
And he actually got away with it.
Yeah.
Which is still ridiculous. I'm still angry about that.
Yeah, and I sort of had to catch myself and think, no, be quiet.
I'll go first.
All right, you go. Yep, okay.
I want to get a big box of tissues.
Yeah, okay.
And a teddy bear.
Yeah.
For our man George.
Oh, no.
Gorgeous George. Oh. Did you see his after-race interviews?
I did.
Where he was choking up.
He's cried before, hasn't he? But I think the first time we sort of...
I don't have a problem with guys crying, and I don't have a problem with him crying here. It's just, like, his big eyes just get you a bit. You're like, oh, poor George.
Could he have been hot and maybe not crying? No, I did hear that he was crying.
No, there was a choke up. There was a choke up, which is fine. Like I don't have a problem with it, but it's just like, oh, poor George. I really felt for him.
Oh, did you? Wait, what am I getting at? Which is a difficult question, really. I think about this.
Why don't you get Dan Ricciardo something? On the mend.
On the mend.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Just I could get... Well, I don't know. That's a hard question. It's a good question. It's a hard question.
A good question.
I don't really know.
You might think of something through
You might need to leave it with me. I generally am just on a bit of a blank with this one.
It's not often that happens.
No,
I don't generally give you the opening questions.
No, you don't. No.
Yeah.
All right, I'll need to think about this a bit more.
Race ranking.
I tell you what, ask me Friday night for a race ranking. It was a solid 4.
Friday night,
straight after practice.
Oh.
Watched the new layout, saw the new layout, instantly just furious that the underpass had gone. Because I'm all about Singapore. You know I love Singapore. It's number 1 on the list. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know where that news went either, because I missed that...
We discussed it last week.
I know, but I've obviously forgotten about it, because as soon as I watched it, I'm like, why are we got a new track layout? Anyway, so after free practice on Friday, I was fuming. And I was dead set, ready to throw the entire weekend in. And it was a 4. It was a solid 4. I wrote it down too. I was like, I'm writing this down. It's going to ask me on Tuesday. It's a 4. But then, after we finished the race...
Turns out it didn't matter.
I tell you what, I'm actually going to give it a 10. Like, I'm actually going to give it a 10. Like, it is a 10. It was just perfect in every way, shape, and form.
It was a wonderful race weekend, wasn't it?
I don't know... I've moved on from the new track layout.
Do you think... I'll give you my ranking.
Okay, give me your ranking discussion. So it's 10 for me.
For me, it's a 9.5.
Okay.
To get the full 10...
No, you have to have pass for the lead, don't you?
A pass for the lead, which it was so close. And the fact that they were hunting down the lead, which I just found that so entertaining.
But were you happy with the winner, though?
Oh, I loved the winner. And I loved... Like, I was cheering for Lando and for Sainz to keep the Mercedes out. But I was thinking about it while I was cheering that on. I was like, I would have been rapt to see George win it. And so, it was, I would have been fuming if Hamilton had won it. Because I just wanted one of those 3.
Yep.
Just one of those 3.
Someone else.
And I couldn't see how Lando was going to make it happen unless Sainz made a mistake. And
yep.
Yeah, but no, I was thrilled with it. And I absolutely loved it. But yeah, to get... And usually it's a full point for the pass the lead, but because it was such a battle for that win, and the way that it went, and the strategy involved, and the intelligence of the drivers, and the way that everyone attacked Mercedes up. Everyone attacked that race in such a way. Oh, I just loved every moment of it. It was enthralling Formula One racing.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It came to life because we were in danger of a bit of a nothing.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a procession. And then Sargent went into the wall, and then it just...
Yeah.
It breathed life into the entire race.
Because the risk was everyone was just so set on their strategies.
Yeah, it was going to be a one-stop.
Someone was going to have to try something different, but it wasn't going to be different enough. And I'm with you. Yeah, Logan Sargent should probably get the 3 points this week.
Probably should for bringing life into it,
and that made all the difference, didn't it? And so it was just a stunning race weekend in a stunning location. I was actually for once hoping the rain stayed away. Could have come mid-race, but I didn't want the race to start wet because I thought, everyone's just going to go for safety here. It's going to be... We'll see some people squiggling around, but that's just going to bring out safety cars early.
Yep.
And so, no, it was wonderful. And the track layout, I had an argument with Sam on the bike earlier this week about it. And it wasn't a design. It wasn't a layout due to them designing, let's try something different at Singapore. Yeah. It's a forced change, and the forced change has allowed them to look at something different. And do you think it added to the racing?
No, not at all.
See, I'm with you. It didn't appear to, but I tell you what, if we had have had those extra corners, we would have seen that field stretch out slightly more, which wouldn't have allowed for such close racing. Usually the DRS trains are the worst things for us. Yeah. But in this situation, they created some real interest, and because this track sort of behaves in a different way, and so I think if we had had those extra corners in there, we would have probably seen a stronger Red Bull.
Yep.
But that wasn't obviously what we were talking about.
No.
But more importantly, I think it just aided that closer racing for longer.
Yep.
And then, of course, we also saw the Sainz situation where he was playing such a pivotal game in this race.
Yeah.
But, so no, I'm with you. I don't think it appeared to have affected racing, but I certainly don't think it hurt racing. And I wonder whether those corners maybe would have hurt racing a little bit.
Maybe
in this race.
It could have spread the field a bit more, like you're saying. But then that might have even played into the hands of your mid pack. Well, we're thinking it's a one stop, and maybe there is an opportunity for two.
Yeah, the problem is if we had to spread that field so much, those gaps would have opened up, and we would have seen the front runners dropping into those gaps and pitting. Whereas, it was all reliant on that safety car. But it was just an interesting thing. But I'm not. It's not the end of the world that we're going to have to put up with this racetrack for one more year.
No.
Am I looking for the grandstand coming back?
Yes,
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad it's temporary, because it is just it's its own special feature. It is something a little bit different. It's a little bit unique. I think many fans of it. It's part of the reason why you love Singapore in particular. But
I wonder if they can do something a bit better with it in it. I wonder if there's another way to enter the grandstand. I like the kink under it on the way out. I wonder if the way they enter it could be made a little smoother, so that kink can be a little bit more important. Maybe widen out the track and give a few more options. But qualifying, it was there was the risk through the practice sessions that Red Bull weren't on it. But everyone, I'm sure in the back of everyone's mind, Red Bull were going to get it together. We're going to be disappointed because Max was going to get it together because of the amazing race driver he is, the team behind him. They were going to sort it all out. And then qualifying came around and it became apparent that no, they haven't got it together. And even though this is the area that isn't typically their absolute strongest, it's race pace, all of a sudden there was some life bred into this race because... Hell, they're a long way off the mark. This place is hard to overtake. Lots of teams look strong. It's hard work to get through the field, even if they can turn it around.
Yeah.
Thoughts on the qualifying?
Yeah, I thought it was really, really good. We had a lot of... the Q2 session in particular, seeing the two Red Bulls bow out, seeing Lawson make his way in. We had the two Haas cars in there as well. It was a real mixed grid. But then at the same time, we had... Did Yuki top Q2? From the top, off the top of my head? Or is it Q1?
Might have been Q1 because of the Stroll situation.
Yes, that's right, yeah. So track evolved right where he needed it to be. That was nice to see someone different. The Ferraris, their domination all weekend, they were looking a little bit on edge suddenly. But, yeah, then it'll come to the party right at the end, which is great.
Where has this Ferrari pace come from?
Wow, well, yeah, I don't know. That is the massive question of the weekend, isn't it?
I mean, they've just been non-existent throughout this year, and then all of a sudden we saw them come alive at Monza, and we'd heard the reports, right, they've turned everything up, they've gone chips all in on Monza.
Yep.
We're going to have a crack at Monza. And you think, wow, if you can do it at Monza, surely you can do it at some other places. But hey, why not? Yep, okay, maybe their cars are just going to not be able to handle this ever again.
Yeah, I don't know.
Then all of a sudden, we're seeing them, and it is a unique track, and it's not the track that teams typically that are strong throughout the year are always strong at Singapore, but all of a sudden they've come alive, and from a season that's sort of just been a real non-event for them, hasn't been horrendous, but by no stretch of the imagination has been good. We've seen some really strong performances coming. We still saw Leclerc drop off in the race pace, but then we saw that magnificent management game from Sainz. So it was a really pleasing change of events throughout this season, where we've seen the best of the rest has been started with Aston Martin. Then we sort of thought, oh, well, maybe Mercedes is taking that role. Then we've seen McLaren. Now we've seen Ferrari step up to the plate. Outside of Red Bull, it's a fantastic season for the rest of the cars.
Yeah, some of the upgrades that Ferrari have brought. So obviously they got the new water slide side pods, which I'm not a huge fan of. You know, I've said for a long time their initial concept last year. I liked it, and they were on the money. But there are a couple of features that they brought. So they brought a brand new front wing, which is actually all the way back to what we saw on the launch spec car right at the start of the season. And they were saying that their front wing downforce is actually quite high. So they moved away from that, but they've reverted back to it. So a brand new front wing on the Ferrari, which was a huge, huge part from what I believe that they've brought for this weekend. And then a couple of different little winglets, especially around the front barge board area, is what they also brought. So it looks like they've said that there's going to be a brand new, like 90% aero overhaul for next year. It looks like they're banking a few smaller aero parts now to then have a really good baseline heading into next year. So I would expect to see the Ferrari every weekend from here on in, just adding a little something, whether it be, you know, a mirror winglet, whether it be a new cutout to the floor, whether it be just something different, especially around that sort of barge board area they've been talking about, just different shapes and cuts to what.
And I believe their whole focus is in developing for next year.
Yes,
it's not necessarily let's make this year's car the best, but we're going to set our platform.
And that's why I think it's only going to be
can.
Small parts too. So I'm really close watch on this for the Ferrari. Lots of little different intricacies, I guess. And then I think next year we're going to see a brand new side pod, a brand new air inlet, and a new sort of engine cover and rear mount as well.
Yep.
Did you see the little bow tie that I think it was the Alfa Romeos are running in the bow tie down the bottom?
Yep.
Which was traditionally the monkey seat, which sat above the exhaust.
Yep.
So down the bottom. And that really fascinated me too across the weekend.
It's incredible, isn't it?
That something so small
can energise that part of the track.
Can do so much. But it's been really interesting to watch how the teams, and Ferrari in particular, are looking for small ways that the tiniest aero sort of wings can be added to different spots on the car. So, yeah, I don't know, because Monza's a whole different layout, but then were Ferrari ahead because of the non-existent Red Bull that suddenly we saw and just, I don't think anyone expected to see on Sunday.
One of us two actually expected to see it. If you go back and listen in to last episode, a certain Roger Byron may have actually predicted that Red Bull weren't going to win this race.
So, because I said that it was going to be every race right until halfway through last year, wasn't it?
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure I got that in this week. Look, I really didn't see it being Ferrari. I thought with McLaren bringing their upgrades, Lando might nail it straight away. Yep. Which it looked like they were looking really good. I'm not sure the upgrades were completely designed for Singapore. I think we'll certainly see next week. See the best of them come out. It was very unexpected to see a Ferrari up there. We mentioned Stroll. Let's talk about Stroll.
What an enormous accident.
Huge.
Enormous. It was just, it was a whole nother level, that was.
Is there any concern that there was very little concern outside of like the commentary team for Lando Norris? The hatred came very quick. For a pretty non-existent character in Formula One.
Yeah, look, horrific accident.
Horrific
Accident just speaks volumes to the safety and the steps that we've taken in Formula One. You can never, ever doubt the safety and driver safety direction that the entire sport has
And
taken.
can you understand that is it understandable that he wouldn't race the next day? For me, it is.
See, for me, it's not.
Yeah, but like that, the impact of that
It fell
was
apart.
comparable to what Rome and Grosjean went
It
through,
did.
other than the flames.
Yeah, look, it fell for me when I looked at it. It fell apart in the way that it's supposed to fall apart.
Yeah, but
so
it was such a stop.
It was a real sudden stop. The fire extinguisher, obviously, on the internal fire extinguishers went off as well. But then everything just came apart from the car as it should. Probably the tether was the big concern, that the tether broke from the wheel.
Well, that just
once again
goes to show how much of an impact it was. But
But,
yeah, no, look, for me, I can fully understand why, like, if he's feeling unwell, to then go and drive Singapore. Well, I mean, we've seen actually that he is quite tough, because he came back from the start of the season from his bike accident really quickly. But with Singapore being such a taxing joint, and we know what we know about concussion, and even though he's got the big helmet on and stuff, like, you rattle your brain that hard, you're going to have some sort of after effect of concussion. We see with sports, AFL, you're not allowed to play for 10 days, 12 days, I can't remember what it is. Other sports, there's limits. For me, there was lots of criticism of him, but I was like, yeah, you know what? No, it's fine that he's not getting into that race car the next day and then expected to go and do the same thing that next day in those conditions where you hear of concussion giving dizzy spells and people not really quite being about themselves. You know what? That's fair enough. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with it too. I'm still of the firm belief, we talked about this on the weekend, that the chassis wasn't ready and that they couldn't turn around in time.
Yeah, which would make sense as well.
Which would, because it was a huge impact. And I think about what Mick did in Jeddah as well, a couple of years ago, where the chassis went into the wall and that was it. It was just, no, we're not repairing this. So, especially, and you think about that cost cap, you think, all right, he's been 20th all weekend, now he's put it in the wall.
Just pushing too hard.
Do we just think about just packing up shop and then we'll save parts for
Yep.
Following weeks, is it one of the most... I mean, I've talked about it for every single week, I think, as long as we've done this podcast, to be quite honest. But is it really like... Are we asking more questions of him now? Like, outside of the crash, 20th, every session, all weekend, nowhere.
The fact that...
Straight into the wall.
We're hearing reports now that he's not loving Formula One. We're hearing that, there might be some other interest, and I think the tennis thing is a bit of a joke.
I think so, too.
But we are hearing that, like, he's come out and said, Formula One's not like what everyone expects and all sort of stuff. I wonder whether there is a bit of the lack of passion, or there might be a reality check coming through for the man.
Do you think it's... I think it's more of a reality check, because he has been... he was beaten... He was on a par with Seb last year for the first half of the year, and then was beaten pretty convincingly in the second half.
He was on a par only while Seb was getting the car together.
That's right, and that's why it was on the first, because Seb mixed obviously the start of the season. But now with Fernando coming into, he has been in every single facet of the sport. He has had the floor wiped with himself. He really has. For Fernando to bring home podium after podium after podium, and then even in their downtrodden week last weekend, still brought home a second, and then for Lance still to be kicking around in 20th. I wouldn't say that the passion is the right answer to the question, that he's lost his passion for it. I think it is that serious reality check that, wow, I've actually been belted off the park.
And then is this just a situation where he's feeling the pressure, he feels like he's got to try too hard, so all of a sudden...
So you just step out.
So all of a sudden, he's pushing too hard, he makes a really silly mistake in that moment, and then the ramifications are so high where we saw what we saw. So, yeah, I mean, we wish him well and look forward to seeing him back healthy again.
Absolutely.
And then, as I mentioned to you earlier, I mean, it'll be great to see Seb in that car.
I know. That was so exciting for you to say. Is it with Lawson doing so well at the moment? You can't turn a blind eye to what Lawson's doing now.
We're going to get there.
We will. Do you think that there is a possibility that
not in that car.
If Red Bull aren't going to entertain him in any way, like someone is going to come along and say, "Come with us."
Yeah. No, I agree. But Lawson isn't that man,
right?
For a range of different reasons. But yeah, I think someone. There's many people that could take that role.
See, I think I've been thinking about this over the last couple of days as well. I think that maybe. I don't know that Red Bull, and I've read that Red Bull aren't going to entertain him for next year. That is all but signed and sealed, which is fine, because I did say last week I was very hesitant. Suddenly, the Nick de Vries factor, where you do a couple of races, you come in and then you disappear.
Yep.
But I think that he's done a stellar job across the weekend. And
could not agree more.
If Red Bull aren't going to roll the dice with him, if I was Aston Martin and if I was Lawrence Stroll, and that if you know that Fernando's got a couple of years left in him, and then yes, that is it. So you will need someone to replace Fernando.
No, you go and pick the pocket of a team for an experienced driver.
See,
for that very reason.
I totally agree with you there. Get an experienced one.
For that reason, but it doesn't have to be like crazy experience. But you just don't grab a rookie for that seat. That seat's like, while they've set up a really wonderful team around Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso is shining, like he does that. He makes something look better than what it is. Yeah. He outperforms the car traditionally, and that's the way Fernando Alonso operates at that such a high level. The other thing that he does do, and whether he likes the opponent or not, he wipes the floor with his teammates.
See, I wonder.
And the last thing you need is a rookie in that team doing that situation. He needs to go to Williams. Or Red Bull or AlphaTauri need to sign him and kick Yuki out.
See, I from what I've read,
I know that's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
I know that's not going to happen.
I wonder about Sargent. I'm not sure that that's the right place.
He should be
Sargent's
gone.
doing okay, but
he's not doing okay.
I think Aston would be a better fit.
I think Lawson goes to Williams.
Yep.
But I think Aston Martin needs to pick the pocket of a team. So an Albon would be a really fine choice.
Yeah.
I can't see Gasly or Ocon going, but they would be an okay fit for that drive.
Yeah.
Personally, if I were them and at risk of having two really old drivers, I'd be going to pick up Dan Ricciardo, because that is he's shown that he can step into the AlphaTauri and show what he's got. Yeah. I think there's plenty of other options around. You don't want a rookie being wiped by Fernando Alonso. That's the last thing that rookie needs for his confidence when need someone to perform in that second car and pick up the points for that second car.
I would think in the twilight of Fernando's year that he would be more inclined to.
No, but it's just purely on performance. No, I agree. It's not due to aggression.
Yeah,
like he's shown that he wants to support Stroll. Which I'm sure makes him sick every time he does it. But it's not due to aggression. It's just due to performance.
Just pure skill.
He outperforms the car traditionally. Like that Aston Martin isn't the second best car by a long shot. No. But he makes it so fast. Yep. And so Lawson doesn't need that pressure. Lawson's not going to make that car as fast.
No.
Lawson might be an equivalent to Stroll at the moment. Like, I'm sure he's got a bigger peak than Stroll, but at the moment, like, Stroll's not a horrible driver. He's picked up results. It's just that he's not as good as Fernando Alonso, so the pressure builds. You don't want to do that to a rookie. You want to put an experienced driver in there to do that. I honestly think Yuki Tsunoda would be an okay pick for him.
Yeah, okay.
I think that Albon would be a great pick for him. Pretty much anyone who's been on the Red Bull conveyor belt would be a good pick for him. Yeah. I think there's plenty of different options. If I were them, I'd be trying to pick the pockets of a good team or of a driver with some experience to make that all happen. Jeez, we got serious early.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
But yeah, while we're on Yuki and AlphaTauri and Ricciardo what move would I know? So reports are coming through that the decider Ricciardo and Yuki are going to get the 2024 drive. Yep. It seems to be coming from a fair few sources.
Yep.
Sometimes we get that news a week late. I wonder whether it hasn't been announced yet. Is there a reason for that? Like, if you know it, you go and announce it, particularly while Ricciardo's on the sidelines. Is there a reason why they haven't done that? Yep. Is that because this news is last week's news and now all of a sudden they're going, oh, God, you know what, maybe we just leave it for a little bit longer? But that's what we're hearing, is that Yuki and Ricciardo are going to be signed on next year for 2024.
Yep.
and Lawson will be left in this reserve driver role. What would you do with that team?
As in driver moves?
Yeah, driver. Yeah, who would you employ for next year?
I would have Yuki and Dan.
Do you not think that Yuki's been found out this year?
No.
So Dan stepped into the car and has equalled him in performance.
Yep.
In 2 races. First race he beat him. Second race it was even.
Yep.
Liam Lawson, a rookie, stepped into that car and has equalled him and then beat him on performance. Is that not a little bit of a sting in Yuki Tsunoda?
No.
Why not?
Because I think we are allowed to give Yuki a couple of race weekends. I would say Monza is not down to any fault of Yuki at all. The car failed. And then I look at this weekend as well, and he got a fair side swipe from Perez. I don't know if you've seen the photos of the right-hand side of the barge board and the floor. It's gone.
It was a racing incident. It wasn't on him.
No flaw on that right-hand side. So I'm okay with both those.
But even through things like qualifying, he hasn't just come out and said, "Look, I've been driving this car. I'm a gun racing driver." Mm. I was fully expecting to see that against Ricciardo, where we're going to see him set better times while Ricciardo came to grips with it. I was expecting him to be a long way ahead of where Lawson is in timings through practices, through qualifyings and all that sort of stuff, and we do, and then Lawson finds his way forward. I just feel like Yuki Tsunoda gets such a free ride in that team, because they haven't had other options, so he's had a really poor driver but to race against until these other drivers have stepped in.
Yep.
But also, you hear these stories of, they've moved him over to Switzerland to teach him some better habits. He's got a new driver coach. I mean, at what point do they stop babying Yuki Tsunoda and just make him be a Formula 1 driver? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just feel like he needs to perform and outperform anyone who's stepping into that team. He's been there for 2 years now. Mm. So that would be where I'd be going. I'd be going Lawson and Ricciardo.
I'd be sticking with Yuki. Yeah.
Okay.
Just back to your initial question as to why we haven't had the driver announcement yet or the team signing. So it's my understanding that we're waiting for the full rebrand, which is going to be revealed at season's end. It's expected to be Hugo Boss Bull because Hugo Boss Bull, which just sort of rounded out there. So Hugo Boss are in talks to be the title sponsor because they will be buying out the AlphaTauri clothing line. So that's why. So Hugo Boss will be buying the clothing side of the business. So therefore they'll have the naming rights. But as of last week as well, there's talks that Adidas are jumping on board too, and that they are going to take over the footwear component of that clothing business. So we are going to have 2 title sponsors.
Both clothing, because
AlphaTauri is the clothing side of Red Bull. So Hugo Boss will take out the clothing, I guess for better words, the linen line of it. And then Adidas will come in, allegedly, and take over the footwear side of it. So because Adidas will then be, I don't think they're going to be a title sponsor. I think they're going to be what's known as like a silver sponsor. Yep. So it'll be the more of a naming rights sort of partner underneath. So we're waiting for the Adidas alleged deal to...
a sticker sponsor.
Yeah, to be put to bed, either yes or no. So
we're going to see the overalls with the 3 stripes down the legs?
Well, maybe. I wonder, because then we'll keep sort of similar colours too with what we've got. So I think that's why we're waiting. So once the alleged Adidas deal comes through and Hugo Boss have fully taken over the clothing side, the name will come out, the rebrand will come out, and then along with that, here are our 2 drivers as well.
Is there anything? Would there be anything in the fact that Yuki Tsunoda is a Japanese driver with a huge population, and Liam Lawson's a New Zealand driver with a very small population?
It could be. It could be. It also makes sense this weekend if that's going to happen too, because we're off to Japan.
Yep.
And then the other side of it is that it probably happens pre-end of season in Vegas, because there's going to be eyes on Vegas.
Could be.
And so we're going to rename and we're going to rebrand and we're going to announce our drivers.
Maybe they'll announce drivers this weekend.
Well, maybe in amongst the American audience, which Vegas is going to have. All eyes across the globe are going to be glued to Vegas. So it makes sense to do it there too. So that's where I'm thinking we're going to have our driver sort of line up there.
Tip the episode upside down a little bit. Let's get into the race.
That's what we do.
Carlos Sainz, can you tell me, can you name a smarter drive?
Can I name a smarter drive?
Carlos on the weekend, he he was in a really strong Ferrari, and he kept the pressure up with Charles Leclerc.
Yep.
Probably the thought on Sainz is that he's not quite as fast as Charles in terms of raw pace, but he's maybe a little bit more nifty, better under pressure, maybe. So he was matching Charles, and it was a great little battle between those two about who's going to get pole.
Yep.
And we saw that battle sort of unfold, and that was great. And then he took this race and he just led it and just controlled this race in every way, shape, and form. He did what Ferrari are not known for at all,
which is winning,
making the right calls, being
a correct strategy call,
making some dramatic calls that are actually right.
Yep.
It was just a
pit stop that isn't botched.
It was completely just controlled and everything that you want a race winner to be doing.
Yep.
And it was just capped off by that move of radio. I know from here these Mercedes are going to pick us off one by one unless we work together.
Yep.
And it just so happened that his old teammate was in the car behind him, and Lando cottoned on really quickly to what was going on.
For sure.
But this business of, radio, I'm holding off.
Yep.
I'm going to give DRS to Lando, which is going to make life really difficult for these Mercedes, because if we spread out, they're going to pick us off.
Yep.
We're going to safety in numbers here.
Super smart.
Was it just the best, not the best, was it just the smartest drive you've seen for a long time?
It was so good. So if I turned up to you and you hadn't seen the race and I said, oh my God, the race winner, went and backed the second place man into the oncoming cars to keep him in DRS.
So that those two can come first and second.
And if I said to you, wow, name me who that driver was. The names that rattle off your tongue are Kimi Räikkönen,
Fernando
Alonso, Jenson Button, Sebastian Vettel, Lewis Hamilton. They're the kind of names.
I don't remember. I remember absolutely singing praises of Lewis about the way that he went about winning, but I don't remember something like that.
See, I do early on in the 08, 09, 10 seasons. It's those kind of caliber of driver who have the mental capacity to go, right, I'm done here. Which they were, for all intents and purposes. It was a Mercedes 1-2.
Mercedes, for those who didn't see the race, which is, it's becoming more and more apparent that there's plenty of our listeners.
Shouldn't be listening to the podcast.
No, but there's plenty. There's plenty, so jump on board. So for those who didn't see the race, what we saw was late in the race, there was an opportunity to pit. And to lose track position would have been a real risk, so Ferrari decided to leave their drivers on their current tyres. Yep. Mercedes, who were currently in second place and I think maybe fifth place, decided to pit Russell and Hamilton. Yep. They double stacked, got some fresh tyres under that late safety car. And what we saw was them charge down the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz, the McLaren of Lando Norris, and the other Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. And it was such exciting racing. It was like two fighter jets hunting down their prey. And they brought them back, and then with about 5 to 10 laps left, they'd caught them. And so then it was a matter of making this overtake work. And what they were hoping to see happen was the two drivers spread out a little bit so that they could pick them off with DRS, but Sainz backed into Lando to allow him to have DRS off Sainz, and it just created what we know as a DRS chain, and it was just amazing driving. I really, really appreciate it.
I did too. I thought it was really, and it was refreshing to see such a drive like that too.
Yeah,
it really was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rather than just stretch legs or get rolled. I think it was really, really refreshing.
It was outstanding. Charles Leclerc, thoughts on his race?
I think a split strategy. So again, something we're not
started on the soft.
Something we're not used to seeing from Ferrari or from anyone these days. I mean, I couldn't tell you the last time we saw a team split a strategy, especially that high up the grid too.
And one of the more exciting things for a Formula 1 fan.
Absolutely. So traditionally you have your split strategy. Say Red Bull, you've got Checo on the hards, but he's down in 16th. Yeah. But to be that high up with a split strategy, it sort of told me two things, that they weren't quite sure with the compound, because we know the Ferrari on the hard tyre is a failure.
Who used to split strategy the most?
Split strategy, probably Red Bull.
Yeah, it brings back the Red Bull days. Yep, absolutely.
Like Mark, Mark P2, Seb P1.
And it was all about just checking off against your rivals.
Yep.
We're going to have that other option against our rivals.
Yep.
It might mean that we're going to struggle to go the 1-2, but we're going to definitely have the race win.
Which was what this one was all about. But unfortunately, it came at the detriment of Charles as well. I think the safety car didn't help Charles either in terms of his timing because he stayed out, which he probably shouldn't
baffled
have.
me.
But I don't know. At the same time, track position was probably key here at Singapore too, so it made sense to me that they also stayed out as well. I mean, look, Charles, it was one of those weekends for him, wasn't it? It didn't quite go right. At the same time, it didn't quite go wrong because he was on the alternative strategy.
Would Charles have pulled off this race win?
I reckon he would have.
I don't think he would.
Really?
Yeah. There's the more and more I listen to people, the more I think, you know what? I don't know that he's quite got that last bit of class. And I think until he starts winning a little bit more again and gets that confidence back, I don't know. I didn't feel like that was going to be a Charles win.
Yeah. Okay.
And so but it was a good weekend. It was a strong weekend. But then, and I agree, the strategy got him in the end.
Yes.
But, yeah, it was just like, I don't know if he would have been able to pull off what SAINZ pulled off. I think SAINZ is hitting a real form at the moment that's seeing him take that step, and now all of a sudden people are going, you know what, maybe he's the number one driver of this team. Maybe he hasn't been hiding in the shadow of Charles all this time.
Okay.
Lando Norris's race and the McLarens.
Oh, very good, very good. But again, obviously had the full upgrade package.
Full upgrade package.
So
but
Lando,
then strong race though.
Absolutely. Performing at that's sort of Lando territory at the moment. He's in a real purple patch.
Yep.
He's in a real class of his own at the moment. So no surprises where he should have been. Probably would have been looked a little bit more down upon, knowing that he had the full package and maybe finished 7th or 8th. I think that would have been a value for him as well. So yeah.
So for as amazing as what SAINZ was, it required Lando to be very, very good.
Yeah, which he was.
Really good defending. He didn't quite have the same pace as what that Ferrari did late in the race.
Yeah.
Felt like his tyres went off, particularly being in second place. That's generally what happens. I don't think it was necessarily down to the team or the driver, just the fact that he
Singapore is a high dig.
He was in that dirty air the whole time, so his tyres were going to go off a little bit more. He had to sort of work them a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it was just as impressive from Lando, I thought.
Yep.
Considering that they made it work and those hunting Mercedes who looked so fast was going to happen. Oscar Piastri got caught out in qualifying due to Stroll's hit on the wall.
Yep.
In saying that, and I know the team sort of covered for him here, that last lap that he was trying to put in wasn't brilliant. It was going to be touch and go whether he was going to make it out of Q1 anyway.
Yep.
It wasn't the best lap, but he certainly had better laps in him, that's for sure. But then to come through the field, make up 10 places, was certainly helped by some retirements and some crashes and all that sort of thing. But yeah, to come through the field, make up 10 places, thoughts on his race?
Yeah, very good. Again, only had about half the...
not even, I think.
Not even that.
And sometimes you sort of hear that they, without the whole package, the packages, the bits you put on don't necessarily work, so you sort of need the whole lot to put on.
Yep.
I think they were doing a little bit of testing with him around that, but I thought it was a really fine drive, and in fact I thought it was one of the classier drives that sort of didn't get noticed as much.
Yeah.
It weren't a huge amount of overtakes, but he made his strategy work really well. He sort of pushed through. There was a few overtakes in there, which we didn't get to see on camera, which is a bugbear of many at the moment, but it was a really, really strong showing from him. Let's talk the Mercedes boys. We've got to talk about Hamilton first because he ended up coming in 4th.
Yes, luckily.
4th on thoughts on Hamilton's race?
It was a little bit of it was a very Lewis type performance. Nowhere early on in the weekend. Qualifying wasn't fantastic, but again, really persevered with his tyres and his management as well. I thought he was quicker than George in that last phase, considerably too. Was asking the question over the radio whether or not it was, possibility to swap or to have George speed up too, and then obviously George, unfortunately, clipping that wall very much like Lando did. Went back and watched that replay straight away afterwards, and man, did he hit that hard. Very lucky for Lando not to be DNF.
I think he even hit it on the same lap as well. He hit it the lap before, but I reckon he even hit it on the same lap.
Yeah, it's caught it at more of a straight-on angle where George sort of caught it, because it is a...
It juts out.
Yeah, it's like you need to turn right before you turn in left, so he kinked into it, and obviously hit it a little bit harder too. Yeah, so that was sort of Lewis this weekend. It was very Lewis-esque, and then just skated home through in 4th and, 3rd really, at the end of it. So, yeah, we're very, very fortunate.
Yeah. George
was looking like your potential race winner at one stage, wasn't he? His qualifying lap was fantastic. His comparison to both the Ferraris too. Ferrari had great corner exit speed. So if you go and have a look at the mini sectors, which I know you love mini sectors in every way, shape and form. Did you see Sainz's dad watching the race via telemetry? So not live? That's you. That's I can imagine if, you know...
That's everyone around Formula 1.
Yeah, just not watching the race live, literally watching him win on telemetry alone, which is really, that's fascinating. So the Ferraris had great corner exit speed, but George had great entry speed and great straight line speed as well. So his qualifying lap was brilliant. He was unlucky not to be on pole. He was unlucky not to take an early lead. He was unlucky not to take the lead towards the end of the race as well. Really... as harsh as it sounds to Sainz, we really should be sitting here celebrating a Russell win because it was there to be taken, and just, you know, through whatever reason, just missing the pole, not taking the lead early, clipping the wall and DNFing.
Yeah, I agree with all that. The one thing I loved about him the most was being on the radio saying, right, how are we going to go and win this? Because he was in second position at that point.
Yep.
He was in second position. He could see what the Ferraris were doing. He knew that they weren't running a fast race. And he was like, right, come on, let's come up with a way that we're going to go and win this race. Let's come up with a way we're going to win this race. And he was on the radio a few times. And I just love that aggression about, come on, let's get moving, guys. There's a race up for grabs here. Red Bull aren't out in front by a million miles. This is an opportunity we can't let go. And I love that mentality about, and he led that. And I just thought it was just a fantastic representation as to where he's at as a racing driver, and then where it went wrong. I mean, you'd almost prefer that than him just to dolly around in second place, wouldn't you? I mean, I know he finished in that position, but yeah, it was it was just a bit of a shame. But anyway, it was what it was in the end. Hamilton at the first corner, first lap.
Yeah.
It's a real bugbear of mine, this business. And then the fact that he came back on the track and he was giving back positions, it almost like, you know what, you got to do it straight away. Because he held up Russell in that moment. Yeah. So the fact that he rejoined in that position, he held up Russell, his own teammate, from attacking those Ferraris on that first lap when it's most critical. I don't know. I think it's just such a poor look for Formula One to have those get-out corners or get-out
I mean, I can understand why they're there. I think the actual but not in
slow them down.
Not in that way.
Yeah, but like literally slow them down. If I know you've got to go around a bollard, but it's almost faster to take that route. Yeah. I know you can't overtake by going off track, and they've sort of made that nice and clear now. But just like make them actually slow down. Put some little ripple strips towards the end. And make them slow down for it. It's just not a great look. I don't love it at all.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
Oh, my apologies. Let's get on to Max.
Yeah, where did this come from?
Well, I predicted it. Like I said, it blew me away. It honestly blew me away. Because one thing is for Red Bull, we've seen it before where they haven't quite got it right. Yeah. But we all know that they're going to get it right the next day. And then they didn't, and then they didn't, and then they didn't. Yep. There was a little bit more race pace in it, as typically a Red Bull does. But
which is fine. They sacrificed Saturday for Sunday.
The smart people in Formula One, so there's been changes to the way that they're measuring and checking for flexes throughout the car on carbon edges.
On the floor.
Well, edges around the floor. They're also looking at sides as well. So they're changing the way that they're looking at some of these things. Now, smart people in Formula One are saying that this wouldn't have been that effective at this racetrack.
No.
Then if that is actually going to be the case, we'll really see it next weekend. Do you think that this has made any of that change happen?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. I think that it may have just stopped them from getting super aggressive with some things, but I'm with you. I don't think this is the reason. It's just they'd predicted it early, which is one of the reasons why I was like, maybe there's a chance that this might be the track where the car's not going to be suited. And the shifting seems to be giving them a great deal of grief, but I just don't understand why the shifting here is so much worse than the shifting anywhere else. That's the part that became really intriguing, and then the fact that they couldn't dial that out very well was really intriguing.
See, they brought a new floor edge, which was designed for more top speed and less drag.
And was it designed to be slightly stiffer?
I don't know. I'm not buying into that. I wonder if it was not going to work here, that you do need a little bit more downforce at Singapore, and that they brought the upgrade to Singapore, and because that upgrade is not designed for downforce, it was just the knock-on effect was, it would be like bringing a Monza wing to Monaco, that you know that it's going to pay you dividends for the end of the season.
So Monaco usually brings us this result, whereas this time around, Red Bull were able to be strong at Monaco.
And that's it. So, and that's where I look at these new upgrades, that it was just, they brought the upgrade because the upgrade was there to be brought, so let's bring it. But we know it's not going to work. However, we're going to go to Japan on Saturday, Sunday, and it's probably going to fly through there.
And did it catch them by surprise? Do you think there was an element of, you know what, we're not going to be absolutely ideally set up here, but we're so fast at the moment that we can probably get away with it?
Maybe, and it would make sense. You couldn't blame them for thinking that way, because they generally are that fast. So maybe it just it worked a lot worse than what they thought it was going to in terms of breaking even at Singapore.
Yep.
But I mean, we're going to go to Japan and they're going to blow everyone out of the water.
Japan's going to be such a telltale on this flexible floor business, because we know that the Red Bull's floor is just light years ahead of everyone else. We're starting to see people start to make some changes to their floor and get a little bit more creative with how they flow the air through there to create that downforce. But if they've had to make changes there, then maybe there's something in it, but I'm not buying any of it until we see this weekend.
Yeah, see, I've not read anything that says this is a new rule or this is a time.
No. It's just how are we going to look at it?
It's a reminder to say, hey, please make sure that things are... So they were given warning. Anything to change.
It's interesting, and this is where the conspiracy theories come in.
Yeah.
They were given warning that they're going to be regulating and keeping a closer eye on it from this weekend.
Yep.
And this weekend that we've seen them drop off.
Yeah.
So you can see where people are making their connection.
Yeah.
I'm not buying any of it until we see
Suzuka. Because 5 days earlier we say it, they still win.
Yeah, but they knew that they weren't going to be copying the close check last weekend.
Yeah.
Mind you, I think they were practicing last weekend, so I'd love to know what that data said. But yes, no, I'm with you.
I'm with
you.
Yeah,
Singapore, but yeah, I can certainly see where it's come from. But yeah, Singapore. It's not Singapore. Sorry, Suzuka's going to be the real telltale, because that place absolutely is going to be a downforce, ground force mecca. Perez race. I mean, Hamilton managed to work his way into fifth, which actually I thought was not a bad effort in the end, because it is a tricky place to overtake, and it wasn't like he was in his usual machinery that was going to be blasting everyone away. Perez only ended up in 8th. Thoughts on the Perez weekend?
Don't know. Not great.
If Red Bull are going to have a race where Verstappen's not on it, they're always hoping that Perez are going to be on it.
He was more off it.
He was just a little bit more off it. Yeah, it's another knock on the man. Is part of the fact that they're re-signing what we think re-signing Ricciardo and Yuki. I mean, Red Bull have not been worried about making a mid-season change. Yeah. I mean, the easy options go Perez, and then you got two really qualified drivers who have got the experience now. If he doesn't pull his finger out early next year, there could be that change.
So he's 43 ahead of Lewis, and he's 53 ahead of Fernando.
And if you think about the way we've been talking about
that he has to finish second.
The Mercedes car.
Yeah.
If you think about the way we've been talking about Mercedes car and think about the way we've been talking about Red Bull's car this season, it's just ridiculous that they're even in sight.
Well, they shouldn't be. They should to sit here and say that there are two drivers, one in an Aston Martin and one in a Mercedes, that are literally. I mean, they both are. They're in striking distance of second.
Yep.
Just a DNF here, a couple of poor results in a row. You get in under 10 points. If Lewis or Fernando get half a sniff of being second in the Drivers' Champion, you couldn't name two worse drivers that you would want on your tail.
151 points off. Max is.
Yeah. That's just
there's some damning stats in there. But
that's a demolition, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, it'll be interesting, but yeah, it wasn't his greatest. performance.
Yep.
And yeah, it was an opportunity to sort of to fly the flag for the team, I guess.
Yep.
Pierre Gasly came home. Sorry, Pierre Gasly, as he's now pronounced. Thanks to Dan Ricciardo. Sixth position. Thoughts on the Alpine race?
It was a very Alpine race, wasn't it?
Well, it was. You say
it was
that
nowhere, and then it was there, and then it was
you say that though, but they were pretty much best of the rest here.
They're still
team.
Remember,
it was well. Everyone else has made a step, whereas they haven't quite made that big step this season.
No,
it's like I said before, we've seen where Aston Martin. We've seen where Mercedes have made it. We've seen where McLaren's made it. Now we've seen Ferrari make it.
Yep.
And they were in that bunch. In fact, they were ahead of quite a few of those teams throughout this year. And they haven't made that step. There's a bit of a concern in that team that they're not making these good games.
Well, they've got the 100-race plan, which has already started.
Yep.
They're too busy sacking everyone.
Yep.
So,
yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one. But they were in for some decent points, though, because it was Gasly and Ocon. In fact, Ocon was ahead of him, and then Ocon retired in these conditions.
Yeah.
But it was looking better than what probably it shows here. They were on for, I think, a fifth and a sixth there at one stage, and then, though mind you...
They're just in a race of their own at the moment, aren't they? They
They
don't
are.
have a competitor. They're just, they are where they are, and the rest of the pack is in front, and the rest of the pack is behind.
Yep.
So that's sort of where they're at. They're racing themselves.
Yep, no, I'm with you. Lawson's race?
It's just terrific, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was for a track as tricky as this.
Never raced there before. Q3...
Tough conditions.
9th place, 2 points finishes.
Good signs that AlphaTauri is coming good.
So have a look, and it's something different that I haven't seen on any other car side pod at all. So on the actual air inlet of the side pod, there is, I want to call it like a bruise. Is the best way to describe it. So there is an enormous bulge that lifts up and over, sort of to the right hand side of the water slide.
Yep.
Air exit.
Yep.
The air exhaust exit, that's a better word. So yeah, have a look at that. It's different. I've not seen it on anything else up and down the field. It was there for Singapore too. Both cars had it. Obviously, unfortunately, we didn't see Yuki because of his floor wipeout. But yeah, just a different direction. A lot of thinning out of the car too. It looks trimmer. It looks like they've just dumped a whole heap of aero off it, and it looks to be performing a little bit better as well. So that's going really good. Is there... Yeah, we talked about that earlier, isn't there? Is there scope for him on the F1?
I think the Williams...
Maybe?
I think the Williams, I mean, they haven't had a great deal of success with their second drivers for a long time now. We've gone through a long stage of dud second drivers. You can list them for quite some time, starting with, I mean, even before Stroll, I think we've seen some, but yeah, we've seen sort of the merry-go-round come through.
Yeah.
I think he, once again though, I mean, and the good thing is we're going to probably get 5 races out of him.
Well, I was going to say, he's in Japan at the moment.
We've seen where... I mean, he stood in as Zandvoort, and that was a very tricky situation where he came in the absolute last minute, but he's had 2 full race weekends now. We're expecting that he'll probably get Japan as well.
Yep.
And we're not sure after that.
Not sure. Qatar was the sort of weekend that Dan...
That was being mentioned.
I
don't know that there's pressure on him to come back at this stage. I think they'd rather him get it right this season and be able to sort of come back for the end of the season with a full head of steam for next season. I'm not sure there's a huge amount in it for AlphaTauri to even rush him back. I'm sure Dan's trying to rush to come back because he wants to continue to show his worth. Mind you, you don't want to come back and make it look like you're back but you're not fully there. You can't perform at 100%. No. So I'm almost in favour of him holding off for as long as he really needs to.
Yep.
Rather than rushing it and then not being at 100%.
Look, if he has signed, then there's really no need for him to rush back.
So that's what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, the pressure's off for that reason. But yeah, it was... I'd be signing him on at Williams is the place I'd be going. Okay. I think Logan Sargent, he's been okay.
Yep.
But we've seen that from Alex Albon, that team's got more to give now.
Yep.
They've got some serious people in charge there now. They can perform at a higher level. And I think that he'll be the man to go and do that. It doesn't really allow for anyone from necessarily F2 this year to sort of step up again. We're lacking that team. The Haas isn't bringing on those drivers. We're not seeing Alfa Romeo bring on brand new drivers. So, yeah, we are lacking that team that's going to blood drivers well.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's Williams anymore because of the fact that, hey, they've finally got some momentum going.
Yeah.
You can't have a driver underperforming. You've got to have the driver pushing the boundaries of that car. So, yeah, that'd be where I'd be placing him. If not, I'd be putting a Schumacher in that Williams. How would Schumacher go, do you think, at Aston Martin?
Yeah, probably all right.
See, yeah, I'd be worried still, though.
I'm big on Mick.
Yeah, no, I'm okay on Mick as well.
Yep.
But I'd be still worried about, we saw what happened to his body language towards the end of his Haas time.
Yep.
Do we want to put him up against Fernando Alonso? Not because Fernando Alonso is not a great teammate to his teammates these days.
Yeah.
Just for the fact that he's fucking unreal.
Did you see Lawson's bag?
No.
I thought he was in a sling.
Oh.
It's cool, though.
Okay.
It's probably no. If I was AlphaTauri, I'd be grabbing a bit of a marketing tool here, and I'd be selling a Liam Lawson bag. It's just different. Have a look on the broadcast. Looks like a homemade bag.
Anyone else you want to mention? Fernando Alonso is pretty ordinary.
Oh God, was that just Aston they have fallen apart in front of our eyes, haven't they?
Just when you think that they're back, they're going to be
fully
firing again.
They've lost the development race. They have been fully outdeveloped by everyone around them.
I'd hold fire on that. I think they were as bad as what we saw on this weekend.
It was a horror weekend. There was nothing good to write home about.
Fernando Alonso didn't exactly have the best race.
Shocking.
But yeah, no, I don't think the team's lost complete pace. But yeah, it wasn't the greatest. Yeah, anyone else you want to mention?
No.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, and 1.
Thanks to All Signs. That's awesome. All Signs. Get your signage needs.
3 to Science.
3 to Science. I couldn't agree more.
Yep.
In fact, we were giving 3 points to him for the first time last week, so he's had a nice little run.
That's good. You got stuck into him week 4 on the podcast, didn't you?
Not last week. I gave him points last week.
Week before that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm pleased that I'm having this effect on people's driving careers. He can thank me in his own way.
Lando.
Oh, I hate having the same as you.
Oh, sorry.
All right, yeah, we'll both have 2 for Lando. All right.
I'm going to give 1 to George.
1 to George?
Even though he DNF'd.
Okay.
It was the last third of a lap. For every single moment prior to the DNF. That's
leading up to that?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Oh, boy. I'm going to give... I'm going to have to give 1 to Lawson, I think.
Okay, that's fair.
I think he deserves a point. I thought it was it feels like I should have points next to his name already. It feels like it was very decent. I might just go close that door. I think
we're being
attacked by probably
or broken into.
Attacked by a golden retriever, possibly. No, I think it's just the wind banging the door. Dud of the day. Talking about dud of the day.
Oh, dud of the day. I mean, I could give it to Stroll, couldn't I? It'll just be the thing to do, wouldn't it? As much as it pains me to say it, I'm gonna give my dud of the day to Danica Patrick.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really.
Oh,
because
you've stolen one of my duds.
I'd be interested to know your thoughts. It was for one comment. Literally one comment across the race weekend that I could not get out of my head.
Was it the one that Daniel Ricciardo's career is over, isn't it?
No.
Oh, because people got angry about that one.
Yeah, all right. So her comment was around...
There's quite a few of her comments, actually.
Yeah. So we were watching practice, and she made comment on how close drivers were coming to the wall. Now, if anyone goes and watches Jeddah, the lap that never was is what I refer it to. When Max put on his qualifying lap that was going to be just the greatest thing of all time and then binned it right. If you think about how close he came to the walls, when you are pushing that close to the walls, that close, you are finding extra lap time. And so Martin talked about that. Corinne Chandok talked about that too. And then she came in and said, well, actually, if you're getting that close to the wall, you're not going faster, you're making errors. And then we went into practice, and then we watched all of the drivers start pushing the limit right out wide as close to the wall as you could and continue to find time. So it just told me that as terrific as she is, and I'm a massive Danica Patrick fan, I really, really am, But her comment across the race weekend to say that if you are a driver pushing wide to the limits, that you're making errors, yet all of the lap times started coming in, it just tells me that you're not quite on what the sport's about.
I'm with you 100%.
It just makes no
I was
sense.
so excited to hear that she'd spent the summer in Europe, and she was going to be at races more often because so much of what she does talks about...
It's good. It's really good.
The mentality of racing drivers.
I love that.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
She can unpack like, how do you push the limits and all that sort of stuff in terms of mentally, how do you go about pushing the limits mentally? But as soon as anything technical about Formula One comes up, a quarter of the listeners out there and watchers out there have more understanding about this sport than what she does.
Yeah.
And I know she gets the inside line, and so she's coming with new information.
Which is fine.
But I mean, that's being fed to her by producers. Yeah. She hasn't got the background of Formula One, which is supporting her commentary.
Yeah.
And I'm with you 100%.
It was just that single comment.
But she's also making comments around like the Ricardo comment, which I can sort of understand her making that comment, but it's just she's
shock value.
Well, but I don't even think it is. It's like she's like, well, I know he's this old, and I know he hasn't been in the sport, so he's at the end of his career. Which there's probably an element to that which is correct, but the fact that she hasn't really got an insight on driver market, like it's not like she knows some of the up and coming drivers anyway.
Yep.
There's just such a lack of background on Formula One for her presenting, which just does my head in. I don't mind her coming in for certain elements, but if they're relying too heavy on her, Bernie Collins, on the other hand, is the best thing that's happened to Sky Sports in a long, long time.
Ben Collins,
she hasn't quite got the presenting skills as Danica Patrick.
But actually, it's funny you say that. I love that about her.
Yes, that was the next part.
I actually love that she is not a presenter. She's a person.
She's a Formula One person.
Information.
Yep. She's a little drier, but I tell you what,
love it.
It's better than trying to sift through the bullshit.
I love it. I prefer someone who is just dry and down
Whereas
the line.
with Danica Patrick, do you find you're just doubting what she's saying the whole time?
This weekend, yes.
With Bernie, I'm soaking it in, right? She's telling me this. I can take that at absolute face value.
I actually find myself listening a little bit more attentively when Bernie comes on. I used to find
that I'd do that with Jensen Button.
Yes.
Particularly when he first started commentating, I'd be listening more intently to what he was saying.
I do it with Ant Davison. I really respect Ant Davison.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, Corinne, absolutely. I'm on board with him as well. I listen in really intently when he's speaking, when Mark's talking about different things. But it's just, I don't know. It's just, I'm not sure she's adding what they need from it.
I'm not sure.
It's a real, And then the capper was when the blunder in her commentary, in her presenting at the end, where she was talking to Lawson. Oh, is that your mum over there? She looks like she could be your sister. And his comment was, no, she's standing over there. And she's like, oh, her too. And I was just like, fuck off, Danica. Like, you haven't brought the expertise. You're supposed to have this class in. Like, it actually made me laugh, and it almost made me feel like, you know what? That's actually quite funny, because I enjoy characters in the sport.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if she was more of a character like that, I'd almost be more on board. I'd be more on board with it, but it was just like, oh man, like even your presenting isn't necessarily at the polish that it needs to be. I'm not sure why you're on the presentation team.
Look, I'll be back on board next week, and it was just that single comment. I just thought that's so wrong. It's just it couldn't be more wrong. Honourable mention goes to fake graphics, which the AWS Too Close graphic is now it is fully fake, which I've always had a
too close.
You ever seen
to
that?
the wall?
So you get to the wall, too close. So the too close margin was 1 centimetre with Ocon against the wall, while he literally cannoned into the side of it and clipped it and took concrete and signage off.
Yep.
You cannot be a centimetre.
Yep.
When you are literally hitting it.
Yep.
It's fake graphics.
Yep.
I honestly believe that 90% of the AWS graphics are fake. Like, remember the old tyre one, the tyre life?
Yep.
You don't know how many tyres, you don't know the percentage of tyre life that is left.
Thank
you have
God
no
we
idea.
don't see that anymore.
You have no idea what a driver is doing. You're just having a rough guess at how long they'd last based on what Pirelli told you and at what lap point we're in. It's fake graphics.
Yep.
So, honourable mention to fake graphics, because you can't be a centimetre away from it. when you're cannoning into the side of it.
Well, that's very true.
Stupid.
My dad, there's a couple. George was very nearly going to get the dad of the day for what he did.
Harsh.
But yeah, I loved that he was just so after it, so I can't give it to him.
No.
Danica was close to getting it.
Yep.
But I'm gonna move away from Danica because you've used that one already. So I'm gonna go with the knockers of the F1 kids. The knockers of the F1 kids.
I'm rapt that you kept that sentence going.
Why?
Because you were going to say you were going to be in the days of the knockers.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah. No. Sorry. The people who are not loving F1 kids. Yeah. Okay. Let me just get this really clear to everyone listening.
Sure.
F1 kids isn't what you have to watch and listen to. It is a trial of trying to incorporate more kids into this sport than what we've ever seen before. We haven't seen this sport do anything to promote itself to children as such in a long, long time. And this is a huge step that F1 and Sky Sports and a bunch of other people are trying to make work, and it's designed to bring kids into the sport.
Yep.
So if you're over the age of 15, you don't get a say in this. You don't get to say it's not very good. You don't get to say that they don't do things that you like, because it's not for you. Grow up. You're the adult. Watch the adult broadcast. There's a couple of different options for you out there. F1 Kids is for kids. So unless you're under the age of 15, you don't get a comment because it's not designed for you.
Bang.
Yeah.
Bang. There you go.
Honourable mention. Hero of the hour.
Oh, yeah, I've got a hero of the hour for you.
Oh, I'm going first in case you steal it.
No, I won't. Yeah.
How magnificent was that Williams?
Oh, yeah, I was going to say liveries, but yeah.
Wasn't it just beautiful?
And didn't they look like a winning team?
Well, they looked like the thing I loved about it, it didn't actually look that good at night. I'm going to be completely honest with you. On the racetrack, it didn't look that good at night on the racetrack, but I love that it was so different to everything else. I think it'll look really good in the daytime.
Yep.
It didn't shine under the lights like the other ones do.
Yes.
But yeah, no, should that be kept for the rest of the season, that livery?
Yes.
Should that be kept next season?
Yes.
It's just gorgeous.
Do you remember like the little blue and white and yellow one, the alleged sort of Rothman's camel sort of throwback?
Mm-hmm.
Fail. That's a video game livery because it just doesn't look quite right. It's cool, it's interesting, but it just doesn't look quite right. This is cool, it's interesting, and all aspects of it looked brilliant, and it was perfect.
It looked legit. It didn't look like it was a one-off. It looked legit. Like this is what our livery is.
And there's social media across the weekend when I saw a photo of Albon and Sargent sitting on it in the garage, and my instant thought was, "Wow, that is a winning team." If I was opening Formula One for the first time and I saw a photo of that team, my instant thought was, "They're in front," because they looked like they have looked on track with performance, like they're on the way up. Suddenly off track now, they are starting to look like a winning team.
Yep.
And I just thought it was fantastic. And the McLaren as well, the dark mode McLaren. Oh, brilliant.
See, I wasn't as excited about that one until I saw that one on track.
Absolutely.
And then when I saw that one on track, I was like, oh, hello, I love it.
The orange and the black was fantastic. And you know I'm a little bit of a Hawkeye when it comes to social media and teams coming out with liveries.
Yeah.
So I don't follow McLaren Automotive, just the automotive group. But over the weekend, McLaren Automotive changed their Instagram logo from orange and white to black and orange. And I was like, no, there it is. So I'm flat on myself for missing that one. Anyway, it looks fantastic. Big bump when it comes to livery. Lando's helmet.
Oh, no, I liked it.
Atrocious.
No, I liked it.
Oh, no. Awful. Oh, absolutely atrocious.
Why?
Just atrocious. It was just wrong. It was a mess.
Oh, I loved it.
It was a mess.
Oh, okay. All right. Hey, did you have a hero of the hour?
Yeah, it was just liveries.
Oh,
liveries
in general.
It was just the two liveries in general. It was just, they were great.
Understood. F1.5.
Oh, gee, how many rounds we got? 7. 7 to go.
Are we going to see a promotion? Are we going to see someone leave because they've just taken the piss now?
No.
He hadn't considered it.
We're too far in now. Okay. It's locked away.
All right.
So the three formulas. We've got Formula AlphaTauri, Formula AT, Formula A, whatever you want to call it. We've got Formula 1.75, which, has your Hulk, your Mag, and your Sargent in it. And then we've got F1.5 right at the very top. All right, let's go to Formula AlphaTauri. Formula AT, down the bottom. Obviously, 4 runners in that: De Vries, Ricciardo, Lawson. Sorry, 3 runners: De Vries, Ricciardo, Lawson. So they're all in there.
Does Yuki not get in that one?
No, Yuki's in 1.5. So in Formula AlphaTauri, we have De Vries currently still in the lead on 35 points. Still in the lead. So I go points in his short 10-race time. However, Lawson is now only 5 points behind him after his weekend's performance. He's on 30 points.
That's impressive.
Massive. Almost ended up on the podium on the weekend. That's how good his performance was. So finished 4th. And then Dan is still sitting pretty on 12th as well. For
12 points.
Respectable, considering he has been in the car for about 3 weekends now. So that's what we're looking at.
Yep.
So Lawson is, you would think, will probably take the lead. But then the big question in there, see, this is like the little watch party now down the bottom. Lawson will take the lead, but then he'll probably step out of the AlphaTauri, so then Dan will come in. So the question will be, can Dan run him down from Qatar onwards? Maybe. So that's exciting.
It is
Formula
exciting.
There's now a little bit of excitement happening
Who
at the
would have
bottom of
thought?
the field.
Who would have
It's
thought?
very good. All right. In the other formula, which is F1.75, Hulk 79. Well done to the Haas boys for actually scoring this weekend and not taking just the traditional 1 and 2 or no points.
They had a really strong weekend, actually.
They did,
didn't
actually.
We probably should have mentioned that.
Yeah, qualifying top 10 for both did all right.
Yep. All right, that's fantastic.
Yeah, Hulk 79, K-Mag on 70 as well, so it's a little bit tighter. And then Sargent did pretty well too on the weekend with 10.
Yep.
So still found his way in there with 2.
Yep.
So still found his way in there as well. So he is on 54 points as well. So 2 points there too. All right, let's have a look at F1.5. I'm just going to throw random numbers at you, and then I'm going to give you the top 3. All right. So just in absolutely no particular order this weekend. So Piastri 145.
Hang on. What do you mean, no particular
So
order?
I'm just going to throw random numbers at you,
Oh.
and then I'm going to give you 3rd, 2nd.
Oh, right,
and first.
okay.
All right. So
Right,
this
right.
isn't from 7th onwards.
My brain can't compute this
That's
many
okay.
things.
So Piastri 145 points, Zhou 111, Bottas 127.
Yep.
Yep.
This is really difficult.
I know. I'm keeping it fresh this week.
Yep.
Sonoda 111.
Yep.
Okay. So Ocon 158.
Yep.
So then your top 3 looks like this: Alex Albon 168 points.
Yep.
So 10 ahead of Ocon in 4th. Ocon's in 4th. Pierre Gasly, 196 points.
Sorry, who was the one just a second ago?
So that was Albon.
Albon, sorry, yep.
168.
Yep.
So he's in 3rd place, 10 ahead
Oh,
of
no,
Ocon.
so who's in 4th?
Ocon's in 4th, 158.
I feel like I missed one. Right, yeah, yep.
You did.
Yep.
You did. So Albon, 168 in 3rd. You've got Gasly, 196 in 2nd. And Lando, well, last week he was in arm's length, and now he has stretched his legs. And he's on 240 points.
How far ahead?
He is 44 points ahead.
At what point does he get promotion?
No, I think that's it. I think we're too far into it. Because to be that far ahead...
I wonder whether there
Right.
needs to be some sort of regulation where if you get 75 points ahead, it's automatic promotion.
But I think...
Which is a risk.
Which is a risk because then kind of by default you're giving it to Gasly, and then you can't really say Gasly's been the best of the season, considering where McLaren were at the start of the year.
F1.5 is a very funny one this year, though, because McLaren don't really belong there anymore.
No, but at the start of the season, they did. They did belong there. So anyway, so that's what it looks like. So we're getting towards the pointy end of the season now, and there will come a point, like we'll talk about, I'll mention as well, Max is going to take it, so eventually F1.5 this year is going to be taken. He's still there, though. Wow. He's still there. A DNF and a 6 for Gasly, and suddenly it's game on again. So, plus there's a lot to watch there with 3rd place as well, with Ocon and Albon only 10 points separated. But you would say the likes of Bottas, Sonoda, Zhou are sort of out of it, so they're just kicking around at the bottom. It'll just be a case of who gets up top there. And then Piastri's a bit of the watch as well. He's going to have the full package.
5th.
He's in 5th. He's on 145 in 5th.
Can he get into the podium position?
Yeah, well, he's only 23 points off Albon. So a win, and he's in, he's in good company there. So anyway, that's what it's looking like. And then those other little minor awards which we have at the sort of back end of the season too. Fastest lap goes to Albon this week. And pole position award goes to Lando. So Lando at the moment is leading the pole position award with 5. Next best is Ocon with 3. And then in terms of fastest lap, it's actually pretty close. Norris has 4, Gasly has 3, and Albon picked up his 2nd as well. So yeah, Zhou, Ocon, Hulkenberg have 1, K-Mag has 1, and then pole as well. You've got K-Mag's got 1, Hulk's got 1, Ocon's got 3, Albon's got 2, and Norris has got 5. So when you say sort of those names, Ocon, Albon, and Norris, kind of all makes sense when we got there.
Couldn't agree more.
Anyway, F1.5.
Have we got one of the... It's hard because we haven't been around Formula 1 for forever and ever, but we've been watching seriously for quite some time.
Oh.
Is this the best grid of drivers that you've seen?
No.
I'd be interested to see a time when there's been better.
10, 11 and 12.
Good upper talent. Steps away. I reckon it used to step away a little bit.
I reckon it still steps away here.
Yeah, but only towards the very bottom. Where do you think? Yeah. So where do you think the name me the drivers that are
just at the bottom end?
Yeah, that are bottom end.
Let me see if I can find the 2010 field here.
No, well, name me the drivers at the bottom end now. Sargent. Stroll.
Yep.
Who else you want in there?
K-Mag.
K-Mag.
Hulkenberg.
Oh, jeez. Jeez,
Zhou.
I thought you were fans of them.
No,
Zhou.
I am a fan of them, but they are at the bottom end of the field. If you ask me who's at the bottom there.
Yeah, no, I'm sort of probably more talking about like drivers that you're like, you know what, maybe they're not Formula 1 drivers. Maybe they're not the best we've got to give.
Do you think that K-Mag and Hulk are the best that we've got out there?
In terms of bringing in other drivers...
Just in general.
Just in terms of bringing in other drivers, I don't know other drivers that should probably be in their position. I think they're a waste of position. I think we'd be finding out more about drivers, but they're very talented drivers.
Yep. So if you think, if you compare that to like the 2010 field, so who have we said there? So we said Stroll. Stroll's in the bottom. You've got Hulk.
Stroll.
I've got Stroll. I've got Hulk. I've got K-Mag. I've got Zhou. I'm not sold on him yet.
Sonoda?
I've probably got Sonoda at the very top of the bottom pack. So he would be the highest one up there in the bottom pack too. You've got Sargent as well, kicking around in there.
Yep.
And probably in the midfield, you'd probably say Perez. I don't think you could not say Perez. Like Perez isn't setting the world on fire. At all.
Interesting.
At
anyway.
all.
Yep.
Like I wouldn't say he's in the bottom.
Yep.
But he's better than Yuki, but there are plenty better than Perez at the moment kicking around. Like plenty in that field. So if I compare that to the 2010 season, right? Because the 2010 season is what I'm talking about there in terms of like who and where doing what, right? So if you think at the bottom end of this field, Christian Klein, Bruno Senna,
Yep.
Timo Glock, Lucas de Grassi, and then you've got the likes of Karen Chandok when he was there, Jamie Al-Jaswari.
See, I think we got more bottom echelon drivers.
Yep, Lietzi, and then you probably say Petrov.
Yeah, so they were worse than this quote.
No, I reckon they're on a par.
Nah, I honestly think this lot of drivers is better deeper into the field.
Okay, so if you think about the top 10, so if you're going to say the top end of your
field. I'm talking across the whole field.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think there's 3 drivers out there that don't deserve to be out there at the moment. Whereas with that list, there was a lot that was sort of didn't end up really achieving anything in Formula 1. Now, maybe a couple of these won't achieve anything in Formula 1, but I think they're doing all right. Yeah, I think it's a really strong field this year in terms of drivers.
It's certainly a strong field, but I could think of other fields that do have a bottom end similar to this too.
You haven't yet.
And if you think the teams as well, like the teams, probably most of our teams are pretty on a par. AlphaTauri are not great. Williams are doing better. Haas are a bit meh at the moment. And then you've got Alfa Romeo. So you've probably got about 4. And then if you think back to 2010, you've got Hispania, you've got BMW, you've got Virgin, you've got Lotus. So they're also not really doing anything in that season too.
Yep.
The top end is right up there with 2010, I honestly think, as well.
What do we have top end is for 2010?
So top end of 2010, Jensen, Lewis, Schumacher, Rosberg, Vettel, Webber, Massa, Alonso, Barrichello, Kubica.
See, I think that's nearly slightly stronger than this year.
Yeah.
I think the bottom end is not as strong as this year's bottom end.
Yep.
Yeah. Fantasy.
Fantasy's back this week.
Oh, yes.
Fantasy's back.
I'm really worried.
I did well.
How annoying.
You were having a shock. I instantly went to your team after Red Bull failed. So I went with my heart this week and not with my head. I've been thinking about it too much. And after FP2, I thought, no, Ferrari's on here. So both Red Bull drivers out. Red Bull as a constructor out. Both Ferrari drivers in, and Ferrari as a constructor straight in.
Yep.
So we did a full team swap, which you stuck with yours.
I didn't bother changing, correct, yes.
I could tell.
Yep.
I was watching attentively too. All right, let's have a look again at fantasy. Thanks to Chris at Dr. Auto Art, Redbubble, Facebook, Instagram, all the great things. Chris is almost going to be prize time. You bought some merch from Chris.
I was going to get to
Where is it?
Well,
Is
it needs frames.
I know. I still would have thought you brought it out.
No, well, I'm not leaving it in my dirty shed until I've got frames on it.
Fair.
But
you'll have to show me before. I want to see it in real life flesh show.
I was going to get to it at the end. They are magnificent.
I remember Watsy driver choice as well.
I remember Watsy said to me, he goes, "You don't really understand how good they are until they're in front of you."
Well, that's to see it.
I understand that 100% now because I unrolled and I was like, oh, they're so good. It's just and to have the layers and you can actually feel them. And I don't think I'm supposed to be touching them, but to actually feel them and to know about the process the way that he's explained it. So
that's awesome. That's
awesome.
No,
it was wonderful.
If you're a science fan, have a look at Chris's work at Dr. Auto Art. He's been redoing his science work as well, and it looks great, and I love his new helmets too. So thanks to Chris. We're going to get to that point very, very shortly, and we are going to have our prize winners, and Chris is going to send that out, which is awesome. And if you are in the market for something terrific, because it is going to be Christmas time, and you've got that F1 person in your life, get on Chris's work at Dr. Auto Art and have a look. All right, fantasy this week, 299 points for me this week. A monster week.
Holy moly.
22 for Leclerc.
That is impressive.
I went the 2 times. I did the DRS boost on Sainz. So 90 points for Sainz. It all come up tick, tick, tick.
That is impressive.
30 for Lando, 24 to Oscar. Fernando was the big fail, -1 with his DNF towards the end. Sorry, not DNF, his relegation to the bottom of the field. So -1.
Yep.
Losing place is what cost me there. I had the Ferrari as the constructor with 70 points, and I had the McLaren with 64 points.
So have you gone with the change? Did you go with the change the team just for this weekend and it changes back?
I don't know. I'm going to wait till at the
end. No.
Oh, yeah.
So did you click the button where you change it just for the weekend?
No, I did full trade.
Oh, so you've moved him out.
I did a full trade. So I traded Max, and I traded Yuki out, and I traded Red Bull as a constructor.
So you've gone all in.
I went all in on Ferrari, and it's paid off.
What's going to happen next week?
Massively. Well, I'm going to wait till the end of FP3. I'm just going to have a look at where Ferrari
are. You going to be able to change back?
Yes, I am going to.
Because don't you lose a little bit of money in the trading process?
You do, but all of the Ferrari drivers went up $500,000. So it won't matter. I've still got enough money to go straight back to Red Bull.
I hope the Red Bull drivers went down more than that.
So anyway, 299 points for
myself.
That's
impressive. Well done.
Which is massive.
Well
and
done.
I think I've gone up 2 places too. So I'm up to 14th now. So life's actually not too bad for myself for this race weekend. I finished 4th overall. So our our 2 number 1 teams for this weekend for Singapore was It Protects My Head and Q with 315. Coming in 3rd place was Ricky Bobby Racing School with 303.
Q has been up there a lot this year.
Q has. See, I was raps on Q at the start of the year thinking they were going to bring this home, but I'm not quite sure now. Okay. Me in 4th, and then Super Karate Monkey Death Car, which is a different name.
That's a wonderful name.
It sounds like if we asked our sons and said, name your fantasy team.
Oh, yeah, my boy would be all over
H would name that. He'd be like Super Karate Monkey Death Car. And, I'd love it. I'd be like, that's unreal.
I think it's actually my
favourite
name.
That's so cool. That's actually really good. That's really good. So, anyway, so that's the top 5-ish and 299 for myself and them. And then if we go to you, my friend, which you are right down in about 23rd position, if I remember correctly.
For the week or overall?
Overall. So you're 21st overall.
Oh, I'll take that.
4,264 points for yourself. And this weekend you had 203 points. So you had Max 50 because you had the double DRS. You had Perez with 16, Oscar with 24, Yuki hurt you minus 17, Alex 12, and then 64 for the McLaren and 54 for the Red Bull. So you kind of saved face. Red Bull's kind of saved face at the end of it because
they came through
straight after qualifying, you were on 4 points.
Yeah,
you're in a bad.
If I had a thought about it,
yep.
I would have come to that conclusion that Red Bull will come through in the end.
So
yeah, it's interesting. I was still halfway through the field. I'm not.
That's not
completely devastated with it.
My suggestion to
I
anyone
was running you down, and now you're a fair way off, which annoys me.
Stretched myself in the 100 minutes there too.
Yep.
My suggestion to anyone out there is it is officially time to burn Checo Perez and find yourself somewhere else. Is officially time because you could go and throw George in there, you could throw Sainz in there, you could throw Leclerc in there, you could do any of those things.
That's a good point.
Because right now George and Sainz are probably the better value picks there too.
That's a good point.
So that's what that's looking like. And then if we go to the actual overall leaderboard, thanks to Chris at Dr. Auto Art, in first place on 4,501, It Protects My Head. Second place, Tails I Win, 4,499. How close is that? 2 points. And Q, which is 20 points behind there, 4,479. In fourth place is Ricky Bobby Racing School, 4,461. And in fifth place, WW Jolien PD on 4,446 points. So it's a top five. That's a top five for Singapore, and that is you and me. Thanks to Chris. Thanks to everyone who's been part of Fantasy this year, which is great. Look forward to the rest of the season. A couple more changes coming.
I'm just making my changes now.
You are making your changes now. Talk us through it.
I've taken out Perez.
Yep. Good.
Lando Norris is going in.
Yep.
And I've taken out Yuki.
Yeah.
But I can't decide whether see, that gives me 11 million. I can't decide whether I go to Pierre Gasly. Ocon, I could go with.
Yep.
Or do I wait because I know Ricciardo's coming back and buying into him, so step on to Albon. What's his name? Oh, no, actually, it doesn't swap you over anyway, does it, Lawson? Yeah, I think I'll go with Pierre Gasly.
Yeah.
I think it's a good move.
George come down in price, 0.2 million. Charles went up in price, 0.3. Sainz went up a full $1 million.
Max and Perez both went up.
Max went up 0.1 and Checo went up 0.1.
Yeah, interesting.
So that's where it all sort of works out nicely there.
Let's get into the news.
Let's get into the news.
There's been a little bit getting around, and I'll tell you what, I was interested to see how often Sky wanted to bring up the Helmut Marko situation.
Yeah, okay.
The start of every broadcast, they were bringing it up, and we got to address it. Yep. And I was just interested in that more than anything. I don't know if I had an opinion on it. I like that they're discussing it and that they're making sure that it's being highlighted and that it's not okay. But I was really interested to see them do that. I thought it was an interesting situation to see unfold across the weekend, where they were wanting to bring it forward and highlight it. Which, if anything, it was probably a good thing that they were highlighting it and making sure that everyone knew that you weren't going to get away with such ugly comments. If anyone missed the comments, in brief, it was about Helmut Marko saying that Sergio Perez wasn't as dedicated a racing driver because he's South American. And if you want to be a really dedicated racing driver, you have to come from somewhere like Germany or the Netherlands, like that Seb or Max Verstappen is. And there was a lot of heat that came his way, rightfully, because it was a really derogatory comment and that it was certainly something that didn't need to be said and it had nothing to do with that conversation. And it wasn't the first time that Helmut Marko said something ridiculous.
Correct.
The part that really blew my mind is that Red Bull wiped their hands of him running the excuse that he's not on our payroll. That just did not fly with me one bit. No. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, no, poor. Really, really poor. Really poor. Lucky to get away with a warning from the FIA. So he received an official written warning from the FIA as well. But in terms of just a person in your team, You can't. It speaks of
if you're there every weekend,
mismanagement. I wonder if Dietrich Mateschitz was still around, how he would have taken.
Well, the reason he's in that team is because of him. I mean, they were close friends, and he was a close confidant. They raced together early on, or raced for him early on, but. Yeah, look, it was just a really poorly managed situation from Rebull, I thought.
Yeah, if you look at the climate and what happened to who's our young F2 driver, name escapes me. Sorry, who made comments online.
Oh, yes. Sorry, yes. Yep.
Sorry,
Yep.
I've totally drawn a blank.
Yep.
If you look at what happened with PK, if you look at comments towards Lewis and stuff like that, in that sort of environment, but then to come out and be like, he's not part of our team. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. PK got a full life ban. From the paddock. Like, it's just there is no in between, and it just slaps of mismanagement and probably fear and ability to actually manage that. Because if you're a senior person like Helmut Marko is saying things like that, like you can't make excuses depending on the seniority of your driver. Sorry, not your driver, of your person within your organisation.
Yeah, and
which I feel is what that is.
100% it is.
And that's why I say, if Dietrich was still around, how would he take it?
Yeah, I mean, a leopard. This isn't a new thing for Helmut. So Dietrich has put up with it. Or hasn't cared about it for all that time. I mean, that's really hard to say about someone who's passed. But, I mean, Helmut Marko has been this person forever, and he's been known as being this prickly person, this Bond villain sort of style person for a long, long time. But, then just to get away with... He's not part of our team, so we can't do anything about it. He's learnt from it. We know this isn't the sort of person he is. Well, he's made the comment, so it is this sort of person. And I understand people can misspeak, and when you speak enough, you will misspeak. I mean, we misspeak all the time. But just to wipe your hands of it, the way that they did, it wasn't nice. And we've seen like comments from this man over and over and over. And it it really, really... soured the taste buds and just soured everything about the Red Bull team for that weekend. And I tell you, it 100% was a bad look for their brand, and mainly because of the way they dealt with it. Were there other ways to deal with this? Absolutely, there were. Those you come out hard. And you don't have him there for a race. You don't have him there for a couple of races. I mean, I know it was just a comment and it was off the cuff comment and all that sort of stuff, but that's what just allows it to continue on. Those sorts of things. So it created more questions for me about the Red Bull team than what it answered in the end, the way they dealt with it. I thought it was really, really poor. The other thing that sort of came of it is, how on earth is Red Bull getting away without him being part of their cost cap?
I don't know how that works.
It absolutely baffles me that they've been allowed to do this and that teams are okay with it. So what that's telling me is that there's other teams, or all teams, are taking advantage of a similar situation.
Like, I would say that they would have advisors there.
Well, it was brought up. It was brought up early on that this might be where they come unstuck again, Red Bull, because all of a sudden, hang on, where's Helmut Marko's wage? That's not part of it. Oh, no, he's not part of our race team. Bullshit, he's not part of your race team. He's been at every race that Red Bull has been at forever and a day.
I wonder if he comes under things like the CapEx sort of cost, and that's where they're investing their money.
He's coming in as part of the investors.
But maybe that's
he's
sort of
the overseer from the investment team.
Yeah.
Well, but you're developing drivers. The drivers are talking to you mid-race.
It could be.
Mid-weekend. Yeah.
Could be a case of the investors actually paying it. And he's just very visible in the paddock. And I'm sure there are teams up and down the paddock that have advisors. They're just not visible like Helmut is. So,
yeah.
Anyway. Nick de Vries looks to have a race seat for 2024.
Doing?
So rumours that he'll join the WEC in the number 7 Toyota, along with Mike Conway and Kiwi Kobayashi. So Lopez turns about 40 or so. And he was part of the number 7 Toyota family before he entered Formula 1, because he had a get-out clause to allow him to enter Formula 1, and only Formula 1, which he activated. So it looks like that he'll probably come back in and he'll race in the hypercar next year with the number 7, which is a brutally quick piece of machinery.
Yep. anything else you
Looks
want to
good.
discuss?
The Felipe Massa case.
Oh,
Been
good.
watching
I was
very,
about to
very
bring that up.
closely. Very,
We
very
haven't discussed
closely.
this yet.
No.
I wasn't giving it enough. I wasn't giving it any credit.
I think we mentioned it here or there.
But I wasn't giving it enough time to sort of think it through, but it just hasn't gone away.
It won't go away, but at the same time, there will be no win for Massa.
There'll be no win for anyone in this situation.
There is no win. Massa will not win. There is nothing for him. So as much as he wants to, and for those that aren't following or aren't aware, he is chasing the 2008 title because there were comments that Bernie made about 3 months ago that he did an interview and said that he was fully aware after Crashgate that he
it was
knew
a deliberate
it was
situation.
a deliberate situation, and that he knew about it, and that they should have done something about it, but they just kept it quiet due to the impact it would have on
Looking
the sport.
after the sport.
So
yeah.
then Felipe never obviously knew that at the time, lost the title by 1. At the same time, a lot of fans say, well, he also lost in Malaysia in the wet when he put it in the wall, which is correct too.
Yep.
So anyway, so he is chasing compensation. Compensation in air quotes, because compensation could look like just recognition of being the title winner.
Yep.
It could also be the case of, no title being awarded. It could be a case of a sum of money. It could just be anything. Compensation can really be, let your imagination run wild with that. Under the clauses and the way that the rules were written all the way back in 2008, it is watertight, and there is absolutely no way in the world that the title can be overturned or recognised to anyone other than Lewis Hamilton. It is not physically possible. So that's why I say...
Oh, thanks very much, lawyer man.
That's why I say that it is just... This will all amount to nothing in the end. He might get some hush money at the side paid out, and he might be happy with that. I don't know. He's not going to be
The theory is that's where it's going.
It's not going to happen.
Is that he's looking for some compensation around that.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, I'm neither here nor there on that part of it.
Yeah.
Formula One has had some dodgy dealings in the past, and so if we start bringing up one, I mean, where do you ever stop? I'm with you 100%. It is ridiculous, and it's ridiculous that he thinks that this is a right course of action.
Yeah.
However, I'm not in any situation at the moment, so you never really know. But yeah, and I'd be really surprised if anything comes of it. However, these sorts of things, like you say, I've got a funny way of playing out, and so whether they come to an agreement, might be something. Depends on how. If he wants money, he's more of a chance, I think. If he wants a title, I think he's no chance. But,
I think so
but
too.
in saying that, hey, we're not lawyers. We're not going to be sitting in these courtrooms. But yeah, it's a slippery slope as soon as we start doing this sort of thing.
There are so many factors to be played out across a season.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Whether it be a lap, whether it be a qualifying session. So if you have a look, I got Massa's results here from 2008. So Australia and Malaysia, race 1, race 2, retires. Both those races obviously played an enormous part in the way that he finished. He then finished 17th in Hungary and 13th in Singapore, and he loses by 1. If you look at that, Lewis retired once.
I think there's a botched pit stop in there that was really important.
Yep.
Yeah, look, I'm with you, 100%.
Lewis retired in Canada.
One of my biggest pet hates is the video review in sport. Yep. I would be rid of all video reviews in sport. It just go by the umpire's ruling and just take it. I hate it in cricket because it ruins every great wicket. We've got to go and review it, and you can't celebrate properly. Yep. I hate it in football because we're only reviewing goals. Why aren't we reviewing all the free kicks around the rest of the game? It's just it does my head in. The one sport I actually don't mind it is does it go in the goal for soccer? Yep. Because it's a bit hard to tell whether it goes in the goal or not for those really close ones. But I'd even get rid of it for the offside and stuff. It just it does my head in. I can't stand the video review. Yep. Any other news, mate?
That's it.
No, very good. We're off to Suzuka this weekend. It's a day race for us, which we'll be very excited about. We're on holidays and everything, so it's going to be all happening for us. Hopefully the weather stays nice. The Suzuka loves to have a little typhoon, don't they, coming in, but I haven't heard that anything like that's going to be happening, so we can have our fingers crossed for that. For a good dry weekend. Let's get a prediction.
Red Bull back in the fold. but from Ferrari.
Oh, geez,
but
thanks.
from Ferrari.
From Ferrari.
Max from Sainz and Leclerc.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to keep upbeat about that.
Okay.
Yep.
For me, it's Max into Lando. And I don't know after that. Not sure.
Okay.
Well, let's go Lando and Piastri.
Okay. All right, interesting.
What do you love about the Japanese
Everything.
circuit?
Everything.
Sorry, not Japanese circuit.
Yep.
The Suzuka circuit.
You know what I love the most? The fans.
That was what I was asking you. What do you love the most?
The fans. I love everything, but it is the fans. They are like no other in the world. If the thing I'll be
looks like a fun place to be, doesn't it?
And if you look at like their headgear where they have like those hard hats with little DRS wings going on, you've got hats with full-size cars made out of papercraft. They give the most extravagant and just creative and unique gifts to drivers. Fans are crazy. There is nothing that I don't love about.
I want you next week. I want your top 5 circuits for fans.
For fans,
like in terms of fans,
top 5 group of fans around the world.
Yeah, circuits that bring in the right atmosphere.
Yep.
I'm going to ask for that next week, not this week.
All right, cool.
Yeah, it is, and just the layout is it's a good, fun layout.
It's
It doesn't always produce heaps of overtaking, but I don't think we're seeing these cars race at this circuit properly yet because we had it taken away from us with the weather conditions last year.
Yep.
And so I'm really looking forward to seeing them race these cars.
I have no
on the
doubt
circuit.
someone is going to put it off in the 130R.
Ooh.
It's going to be. I love it. It's just brilliant. I wish we had another race in Asia. I really do. Like, there are so many opportunities to go somewhere else in Asia, like twin.
Do we not have another race in Asia?
No, well, we didn't have China this year.
I hadn't actually considered that.
Yeah, we didn't have China. So
China's back next year.
Yeah, we've got Japan and we've got Suzuka, but you've got twin ring Motegi as well.
What about Singapore?
See, I said
that's in Asia.
Yeah, I did say.
Oh, so there is another race. Oh, right. I see. You want more than.
I want another one.
Okay.
And it's probably not China that one, but like there's heaps of other places.
I like the Chinese circuit.
Oh, I like it too. I'm very good at it on Sim. But no. There's cool old school racetracks in Asia that we could go to. I think would just be awesome. Awesome. There's so many opportunities. I'd love to see somewhere else.
Fantastic. Oh, well, we'll get into that and look forward to bring you our podcast. It might be a little bit of a change in release time next week. We'll have to wait and see. In fact, there has to be a change in release time because I'm away Tuesday. But we'll work around that and all those good things that come from that. But until then, enjoy your race weekends. Enjoy getting up early from those people across the other side of the world. Make sure you send Tristan your complaints about that because it's wonderful.
Don't talk to me. I don't care. Get over yourself.
And that'll be wonderful. But until then, goodbye now.